All right, everyone. How's everyone doing? Welcome to our webinar series, NZSIA webinar series. And this is, hold on now. Yeah, welcome from all over the world, I guess. I'm based in Japan at the moment. John's in Wanaka, Sam is in the States. 2 a.m. in the morning?
It is currently 2 a.m. and counting, yeah.
Yeah, go. All right, so thank you very much for joining from all over the world. That's pretty exciting that everyone in all over the world can join to this webinar. I'm quite excited about this. And the topic we're presenting today is, as it's written there, adapting the teaching model. This is what we presented in InterSki, which was themed on future. So this is currently still ongoing project, but we would like to give you guys a bit of insight of how this project is going. So yeah, I'd like to thank NZSIA to giving us this opportunity to present this journey of our, excuse me, our journey of this project. Thank you very much. So my name is Yusuke. I'm current examiner, NZSIA examiner, as well as tech team member, and also two presenters today, Sam and John, current examiner as well as tech team member. And then we all presented this in InterSki. So we are proudly presenting this tonight.
Right.
Hey, John. Hey, Sam.
Hi, how you doing?
Cool. Well, we muted everyone, so we can't hear the response. Sorry. That's all right. So before we crack into it, I just wanted to go through a bit of housekeeping. So if you go into the chat, there's a thumb up emoji you can use. So feel free to use that thumb up thing. It's quite nice to have reaction from you guys as well. Or you can just give me thumb up like this. Right. And if you like to change the size of your screen, if you're doing a speaker view or the gallery view, however, you can change the size of our shared screen, which is a presentation, and the speaker's view. You can adjust it half and half or one smaller than the other one. So feel free to adjust that for you. And if you are tuning this with your phone, this consumes a lot of battery, so make sure you charge your phone. And in case you drop out, but you can freely joining back in. So feel free to join back in, and you don't need any authority to join back in. That's about it for housekeeping, I think. Is there anything I missed, John, Sam?
Sounds good to me.
Cool. All right, so I guess we crack into it. All right. So first of all, hey, John and Sam, where would you guys like to start this from?
Cool. So I think I'll take this, and I think from the off, what we want to be clear with everybody who's watching and listening to what we talk about tonight is that we're really, as it says on the screen, it's a work in progress. So be very clear that what we're presenting isn't what will be in a course this coming winter, maybe not even next winter. We're not 100% sure on the time frame yet for it, but be clear that it's about the future, and it was kind of guided by the theme of InterSki, and we've kind of taken it on, and we're starting to look at implementing it and expanding on it. The other thing I want to be really clear about is that we're, what we're not trying to say to you by talking about the adaptation that we're making to the teaching model and everything else we talk about is that we're not trying to say that we've come up with this new revolutionary way of teaching. All we're doing is actually repackaging the skills that we already have to make it more user-friendly. Hopefully people find it easier to implement it, especially, for example, when you're trying to use it at maybe level 3 and to bring in some of the more advanced stuff. And I think Colin may have talked about that already in his first webinar. Yeah, and then the other thing I think is quite interesting is there's a couple of examiners tuned in, and we're at a point in the year where we haven't had our examiner training yet, where we have our big get together, and I think that's going to be online this year. But just to explain that there's going to be examiners out there that still aren't 100% on this as well. So as members, hopefully you really enjoy the insight that you're getting into what we're doing, and just bear in mind that it is a constant process, a journey, as Yusuke put it, and it is changing. So what we talk about today, we might change tomorrow to make it better, hopefully. Anything you want to add to that, Sam or Yusuke?
Oh, I think
No,
that's great.
good.
It's quite exciting. Yeah, sorry, I forgot one thing. If all of you who's listening right now have any questions, just chat to me. Then I'll collect those questions and then I'll ask at the end of this webinar session. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and we're really keen to have questions, I think, because you know, maybe we won't be as clear as we want to be, because you know, we've actually only officially presented this twice to people. So you know, if you do have questions or ideas, even if you don't want to add it in here, please get in touch with us through the organisation.
Perfect. All right, so I've got a question to John and Sam. How did you guys come up with this project or concept in the first place?
Yeah, I'll take that one, Yusuke. It is an interesting question. There's so much to that question, but initially it came about from the interski selection process. So if you want to be on the team, you had to come up with a 30-minute indoor presentation surrounding your ideas for the interski theme, which is decided by the International Board of Future.Snowsports. And for me personally, I'll just tell you a little bit about my story. I was like, what does that mean to me? Like, what is the future of snow sports? And I sort of went back into like my own pathway as a ski instructor, like what I experienced. So, you know, I'd just come out of university, worked hard to get 2 degrees, oh, wow. and then started my process. And you know, it was super fun, but very challenging. Had to work hard also, and I failed my level 3 the first time. Got it the second time, and then I failed my trainer cert first time. Got it the second time. You know, and I was, to be honest, like I was pretty shocked and a bit devastated, which is probably
we something all feel that at one point in the pathway.
You know, everyone listening can probably, you know, reflect on some similar feelings that they've had. You know, so I thought, if I was to do this again, or putting myself in other people's shoes, which I do now as an instructor, trainer, and an examiner, how would I want to see the future of our alliance change in order to make that experience better, more engaging, more valuable, but ultimately a process that wants people to want to continue in this pathway, because it's such a fun life, you know. So I did some looking around, and I realised that it's the experiential learning model, Kolb's and Fitz and Posner, the learning process model concepts. They weren't really in our pathway and our teaching methodologies as deeply as what I think they could be or should be. So I came up with a presentation about adding those into our teaching model, and I think, John, you came up with something pretty similar. Am I right there?
Yeah. I remember, you know, Sam did a signature thing where we were learning, and it was really quite good. It was quite interactive. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. So I mean, John and I, we ended up getting on the interski team. It just made sense that we were both thinking about the same things for the future of the snow sports industry. We got together, put our heads together. Yusuke's come into the mix as well, and a lot of the other team members have too since then. And that's kind of where it started, you know. But like John said, it just, the more we think about it, the more we wrestle with it, it develops into so many different ways that we can apply this. So that's super exciting. You know, and ultimately it says on the slide there, because we care, from 34 seasons back to back now teaching skiing, and then being an examiner and a trainer since 2010. These two models, this Fitz and Posner, the learning processes, and the experiential learning cycle, that's pretty much what we do day in, day out. Like those two concepts of like good communication, that is the job of teaching skiing. So I think the why here is we want to see real life teaching skills into our pedagogy, into our methodology.
All right, that sounds
Yeah,
cool.
and I think adding to that, you know, I very much came from the same place, and in that selection process, and if ever there was a way of explaining why NZSIA going to interski is useful, it isn't actually the 5 or 6 days that we spent at interski. It was the process before it, and you know, it's now carrying on, you know, like a year and a bit after it. Is you know, I kind of looked and thought about the future and went, you know, the last interski team and the division had made some really good step forwards in clarity around technical skiing. And I think, you know, I looked at the teaching side and it hadn't really changed since I'd been in the organisation, you know, tweaked, but the manual hadn't really changed, which is one of the challenges we'll be facing now. But I think, you know, trying to have the focus where the learner is at the centre of what we do, you know, and there'll be a few examples going through this and we'll discuss it, is I think really important. And I think if we can make it easier for people to do that through what we change, then hopefully it's for the better.
All right, sounds pretty cool. So in my head, so both of you were based on your personal experience through this career pathway of ski instructing and being trainer. And then you thought, as we challenge our skiing, you wanted to challenge our teaching skill as well, and using the opportunity or occasion of interski as a little bit of drive for us to move this forward. Is that where you are now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm not
Exactly.
sure how much interski, you know, the theme that was chosen for that, I'm not sure how much they realised that it has affected, because we truly did try to, because we were a team of 7 that had never been before, any of us. You know, we truly tried to stick to the theme, which was the future. And, you know, that was the title of our teaching presentation anyway, between the 3 of us, was past,
That was
present,
definitely
future.
a big pressure.
Yeah.
Right.
That was a stressful day, huh? Fun but stressful.
It was, yeah. So I think people are getting excited to hear what exactly that is. I think John and Sam, what's the adaptation of teaching model? Is that what is exactly? Would you like to give
Cool.
us insight there?
I'll take this, and you guys can step in as you want. Yeah. So really, it's, you know, you'll see this, and if you haven't seen it before, because we did put out information from this on the website linked to InSki. This is what it currently looks like, and visually I think it will change. But you know, it looks very similar to the old teacher model, except for that kind of the colourful bit in the middle there, which we're nicknaming for the time being, and probably to carry on, the AAA cycle. And then what we're trying to do is break down the lesson into really three clear parts. So you've got the beginning, you know, which is as it was before. You know, you do your introduction, you know, you find some goals, and the only change really we've made there at the start of the lesson is we've named it skier profile, because it is very much about the start. So and I don't know if that's the right name, we might change that as well, but you know, it's not just technically, you know, before it was called skier analysis, and it's not about technically analysing that skier. It might be that, because you're working that out, but it's, you know, you're also taking into account psychological factors that might affect what you do later on in the lesson. You know, you're taking into account you know, other experiences they have, which were in the model but before, but just making it really clear that we don't want to confuse it with that analysis process that we also examine. Yeah, so that's the start, and then I think the end hasn't really changed, you know, and we always have a good summary at the end, and all the skills within that are there, but it's that AAA in the middle, which kind of it. And I want to be really clear that, you know, the old teaching model is what good teaching is. We're not saying that this is different. So all the skills that were listed in the old teaching model, and they were that kind of, just for anybody that's a bit hazy on it, because you probably didn't read the manual yesterday, you know, the 8 steps, they were kind of a list. We tried to make it a cycle, and it was to a certain extent, but you know, we currently see it that all the information that's in that current teaching model, we still want in the manual. It might be under a different chapter or heading, but hopefully all those skills will be combined into the AAA, and I'll give a few examples to that. If anybody wants to know more about that, there's a really concise couple of paragraphs in the website that explains all that, about where the old model fits into the new model. Yeah. anything you guys want to add on that? Have I missed anything?
No, I think it was good.
No, skip.
Yeah.
Good. I'm
I was
glad.
just thinking when I was presenting this teaching model, and then the teaching model listed from top bottom. So it's as you said, trying to make a cycle, but still it wasn't really visually cycle either. But looking at this picture, that makes more sense to me as well.
Like even I think, you know, as you can see on the screen there, if you made them 3 separate bubbles for 3 parts of a lesson, that might make it clearer that they are separate, I guess. Things to do with it.
Yeah.
Right.
So what are the details in those 3 A's?
Cool. Should we delve into it a little bit more?
Yeah.
Right. So for anybody that haven't seen this, like we said, it's called the AAA model. And, you know, the words really describe the step. And we're not even saying that the name of it's going to stay the same. If we can do it better through the process of us learning to use it, then we might change the words. But at the moment, it's this. And actually, I just want to, if I briefly describe it, so everybody should be able to see my cursor so I know what I'm talking about. You know, it's basically an experiential learning model has kind of led to this. It isn't describing experiential learning, so that will probably still be in the manual. That's 4 steps. We've just tried to simplify it and use it as a tool that an instructor can use to guide the way they teach. So you can think of it as doing, put simply, the activity is doing something. We analyze it, so we actually just reflect on what we just did. We decide whether we like it or not, excuse me. We decide on whether we like it or not, and then we make a decision of what we're going to do next. That's the simplest way to describe it. If I delve into it a little bit more, so with the activity, you can think of that as our job as the instructor, when we're teaching someone, is to present that information to create understanding, clarity of what someone's trying to do in the activity, and then they do it. Analysis is us, you know, we're either guiding through good communication, you know, questioning with the learner, guiding them to realize what happened in their performance and whether that was what we wanted to happen or not. Or it could be us giving straight feedback to them. And it's that kind of reflection on what happened. And then the advanced bit, and I'll take you back, and actually I'm going to add this in from what we practice, which is in the process of going to INSCI, we talked about the past, and I very much went back, and our now President Dan Bowe lent me the manual from, I think it was 1980 something. It was really cool, and it had a phrase in there which was actually good teaching is just a collection of decisions. So I think that's one bit that we definitely want to bring in is you know, the advanced part is you know, it's us in the moment planning. That lesson planning that was in the old model, actually we make that every time someone does something or we have to choose what we do next. So making sure, and that's a skill in itself to make those decisions. I think, you know, highlighting that's important. Anything I missed, team?
No, that's cool. It's cool.
That's flowing well, John.
Keep going. Simple.
Yeah. No, I was thinking this, and this is not something we talked about in rehearsal, but we are doing lots of dry run, not the lot, but a few dry runs. And this is exactly what we did, isn't it? Like we try the dry run, and then we reflect on it, and then let's make a tweaks on here and there, and then we tried it again, and then half an hour ago we tried it again. So we just went through this cycle over and over to right here, right now. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
To see that.
And I think that's
So if you're delivering a good lesson, this is basically what you are naturally doing, but just visualizing that for us to be easy to teach this model to our students as well as instructors that we're training.
And I think it's really cool because, like, you know, you heard if people tuned in to Keith and Colin having a good chat about the learning environment, you know, they talked about cycles, and it's really cool that actually, I think in the past, maybe ski and snowboard haven't talked that much. And it's really exciting that we are starting to talk, and there's definitely stuff that I really like that they do. And I think we're both trying to go in the same direction. I think they started their journey slightly sooner than us, but if you've looked at their manual, but we're looking to keep pushing it forward, really.
Yeah, it's cool. So I've got a question. So Sam was mentioning about, Fitz and Posner and experiential learning cycle, but this is, simplified version of the experiential learning cycle, I guess. But how about the Fitz and Posner? How does that play in, come into play in this cycle? Can you give us some sort of examples of how you actually use this in real life?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. So the bit, and this is kind of the bit that we've worked out in the process, because Sem came at it and you've come at it and other people have come at it from different angles. And actually it just seems to fit with different angles. So, we made the change in progression building where, we used to be very fixed in how we talked about the structure of building a progression, which was great because it was really simple and clear and really easy to follow, but it didn't necessarily fit with every scenario or every learner. So we changed the chapter or the section on progression building, and we talked about different ways of building a progression, right? So actually we see this as the tool that you can use to build those progressions. So you talked about Fitz and Posner. Let's use that example in this, right? So for anybody that doesn't know about Fitz and Posner, this is not new stuff. This was 1964, 68, something like that. These guys came up with it. And I think Colin referred to it in his presentation, but it's how people learn skills, right? So we talk about, for anybody that doesn't know it, there's three phases we go through. We've got cognitive, associative, and autonomous. So very much before we can become, skillful at something, we need to understand what it is we're trying to be skillful at and have understanding of it. So if you think about when we're teaching, and actually, very much we start by presenting information, it's making really clear what the activity is, right? So that could be, it could be anything from what they're trying to do with their body, what they're trying to do with their skis, the tactics, number of turns, whatever it is, it doesn't matter, right? But we're trying to be really clear and have clarity of outcome that people are trying to go to. So actually, when we're teaching, we might start with focusing on the activity and being really clear on the activity. And actually, there's feedback to be given because probably people are going to be unsuccessful, but we don't want to get bogged down with that, because our job at the start in that first phase is making sure people are clear on what they're trying to do, right? And then from there, we start giving feedback as we start taking people, or people start moving through. We can't take them, we can help them through the associative phase of learning. They start needing to know, the information they need to know is what happened. Were they successful, right? Because if they were, they don't need to do anything else. They just need to keep doing that, right? So that's where our kind of feedback side to the cycle comes in with the analysis process. That feedback, like we said, it could come from us as an instructor telling them whether they were successful or not, or what they did. It could just be a thumbs up, right? That's good feedback. But then from there, what we want to do for them to move through the associative phase and hopefully become autonomous in what they're trying to do, or, it's just part of what they do. We have to be skillful at how we teach. So we have to guide them. And it's where the two-way, the questioning skills that I really like about what the snowboarders have in their manual on level 3 for them, those skills come in where we want to get them to realize it for themselves. So we almost take ourselves out of the equation. So even there, I look at what we've currently got in our teaching philosophies, and I think there's a couple of teaching styles that we're missing. A guy called Mostyn came up with the styles that we use. And I think, we can bring them in to help facilitate that. And that's our role in taking people through. And then really those decisions are always being made of when are we ready to switch to that? And the advanced step is always, well, can I advance them by changing, the teaching style I'm using, or can I advance them by, maybe using an exercise to reinforce what they're doing, or, whatever it is, whatever teaching tool you use, that kind of fits in there. I think when we keep talking through those phases of learning, the autonomous bit, you could argue that people are never in the autonomous phase when they're in a ski lesson, because if you've said something to them, you've made them think, which taken them out of that phase. But for someone to get there, if we were going down the idea that someone was achieving that, then then our decision is, well, actually, I'm just going to make it harder. I'm going to change the terrain they're on, the snow, giving them, make the task harder, right, to achieve. Or I might just go, do you know what? they're autonomous in that. So I'm ready to take them back to cognitive and start talking about, you know, the next step in their skiing progression or the next part or focus for achieving the goals they've got. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it absolutely does.
Okay.
Well, I was thinking
Yeah.
that, you know, what Keith and Colin was presenting, question-based teaching, that you can use that question-based teaching and hearing what your students are saying, you can see them where they are in those 3 phases. So when you go through that analysis to advancing phase, you use questions in the analysis phase. And when you advance, if they're in cognitive, you decide what to do with them. If you hear the questions that you think they are in associative phase, and you give them activity that's suitable for that phase of learning.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see that they all working together. All right.
Sen, anything you want to add on that?
Now you can go next slide and we can keep rolling through it.
Cool, perfect. So then within that, and I apologise if this visual doesn't make sense to anybody because I only made it 2 days ago. But you can think of the AAA as, you know, we talk about progressions, right? So NZSIA, I think one of our strengths is really being clear on what the progression is to get to a goal. And I think, you know, you can, a simple way to describe it of how this new model fits in with what we've already got is, you know, think of a cycle through the AAA as being a step in a progression. Now, it might be that actually, you know, if you're doing a really good job and someone's being successful, you know, you might, towards the goal, you might just get them to consolidate and do the same thing again. So just to be clear, because I don't think I said it before, the word advance, right, doesn't mean always going up like this, right? So the goal is to go towards the goal. I hope the visual of my hand fits with the picture. I don't know if it does. You know, that's where we want to go, but it isn't always in that linear journey. So quite often we're getting people, the decision is someone's been successful, we're just going to stick where we are, and the advanced step isn't to advance to the next thing, which is what advance makes you think, is moving on. Actually, advance is just, we're going to do this again. You're going to advance, we're going to do the next thing.
So it's not just advancing of difficulty of activity, but just advancing, moving forward in the journey to get to the goal you set.
It's really interesting when we were choosing the words for this model, because the word advance, you know, the definition, when you look it up, and I'll be honest, I didn't look in a dictionary, I just Googled it, is, you know, the next thing. It isn't, you know, I always think of advance as moving forwards or upwards or onwards, but it isn't, it's just the next thing. So that's the way you've got to view it, is it's just the next thing. Yeah, it's very deep and meaningful.
All right, cool. Yeah. Well, so how does this model work in a sort of group lesson situation?
Well, I'm glad you've asked me that, Yusuke. Well done. Well done for sticking to our script. Kind of, I guess the other way I came to this kind of, or we came to this idea was that, and I'm just going to flip to this slide. I hope this doesn't confuse anybody because I just made it today, so I might get rid of it tomorrow. But one of the things that I guess a little bit frustrated me in how we teach is we always teach a group lesson as everybody's the same thing. You know, the people are all the same. You know, we do it that way. So, you know, what I hope, or what we hope that comes out of this, is that people start to think of the AAA as, yeah, you might. So, for example, you pick your goal with your group. You know, you go, right, this is where we're going. This is our first activity, right? So let's say we're trying to make someone parallel, and they're a wedge turner, right? So take through the journey of parallel. You know, the initial activity is we'll present it to everybody, and we'll treat everybody the same, right? Because we're creating that cognitive understanding. But then from there, people are going to have different experiences, and they're going to have different levels of success, or different things are going to happen. So we need to do, I hope this doesn't confuse people, but you know, if you take the picture there, you've got the first activity being the big AAA at the top, and then, you know, as you move through the lesson, actually you've got 8 people in your lesson. They've all got their own little journey that they're going through in the AAA, where
So the
it might be
bottom
different.
boxes are 8 people. That's what you
Yeah, in
presented
theory.
in that box. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
You might need a 15 people for the New Zealand first time lesson.
Yeah. You've got to have a good memory for that, because you've got to remember what everybody's journey was.
Yeah.
So I think, we definitely as an organisation, if we're going to achieve this idea of treating everybody as individuals in lesson, it's more of a challenge to do, which is why this model is coming, because I think it helps clarify it for people. And the way I talk about it is, if you've got a couple of people that are achieving it, you make them into like a little group, and they're in their AAA together, and call it a subgroup or a smaller group. And then you might have individuals, you might have someone that's a nervous learner, so they, you have to, it's not a technical thing that you're going to focus with them. It fits in like that. And I think, hopefully people are listening to this, and I really hope that people are listening to what we have to say tonight and go, he's just describing what I do every day. I think I'm quite a good ski teacher. If we are, then hopefully it's good, right? What do you think, team?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing that resonates with me the most, is that it's just a natural human communication model. We do it every day. We say something to someone, we analyze whether that was something good to say to that person or not. If it was good, the advances carry on in that tone and that conversation. If your internal analysis was, they didn't really like that, I'm going to change what I said, or I better change tact there. That's exactly this model in action. So that's why
your
I love it.
decision in it is your next activity is just going to ask a question and make sure they know what the hell I'm going on about. It might be, it's that simple.
Yeah, it was like, if I can say something about what we did at Interski, the on snow teach that we did, Yusuke and I had 2 separate groups of like big groups of people, and we decided to
We got like
teach
30
them
people each group.
Yeah, it was massive. We decided to use the Māori poi dance. So if you're a Kiwi, you'll realise from the Māori culture, there's like the women, they have the pois, which is like, it's like a dance, but it's also like quite a complex dance, really, with your hands, and this poi that you go through. And so we took this international audience through a poi routine, and it showcased the beauty of the model, is that everyone started off equal. Pretty much there was nobody that had done it before. And then as we took them through their experience, the level of their skill acquisition was a mess. Some people got it early, some people.
Interesting to say.
Yeah. So I mean, it showcased the Fitz and Posner part there beautifully. Some people needed more of my attention, so I had to do the activity again. I analysed that they were not doing it very well. They realised that too. I would ask them questions, what do you need from me? Do you need me to give you another example visually of it? That's VAK, do you need me to actually hold your hand as you swing the poi? Like, we got into the biomechanics of how the shoulder moves, keep the shoulder still, but the wrist moves. Like, it went in so many directions, but the point is, it was student centric, and we were so focused on the process of learning. At times I had people paired up, just trying to copy each other, because I didn't have enough time to help them, because I had the cognitive people still like, what is this even? What are you even on about? One guy he got it really good. He got into the autonomous phase. I said, okay, you're going to now start doing it with your other hand. So that was the activity. I brought him back into a really cognitive phase, and then he's away. I don't have to worry about him too much. I'm back, circling back through this loop, figuring out who needs my attention. And
I had a very similar
fantastic.
experience. I had a very similar experience, that some people are really good at it, some people weren't really good at it, but then some people really good at it start teaching naturally to the not really good people, and then they are laughing at each other and having real great fun, and it was a really good learning environment as well.
It was a great example of the challenges that you face because, I mean, I don't know how you two feel, but it was a pretty scary day to have some of the best ski teachers in the world just staring at you. And because of what, circumstances outside of our control, our team went from 8 to 7 and we went to a team of 3 instead of 4. And we were originally going to team teach, which is pretty much what every nation does it in ski. We decided to go as 3 singles and just went for it. And I think it worked out.
Yeah, I think it was a good job.
Yeah. And then one of the best skiers didn't mean that one of the best toy players.
Yeah. Well, it's good fun. It's a bit of culture, and
it was.
Yeah, I think it gave it was really interesting for people to hear that the first teach that we do in our organisation is non-skiing based. And it's about teaching, and I really like that, and hopefully people liked it as well because you gave them the experience of what a level 1 teacher would be. Obviously, I think you described it, Sam, as a 10. Your performance, delivering.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So I think the challenges going forwards for us is, with this model is that we've got to break it down and make it simple for someone who's coming into our qualifications at level 1, and I think we can, but so we're probably being quite technical about it, but
I guess we can talk a couple more hours about the interski and about this, but just to clarify, so this model is designed to make our teaching model, adjust our teaching model to be more student-centered, and then we try to educate this idea of student-centered lesson from get-go of the ski instructing pathway, so from level 1 all the way up to level 3 ideally. Is that what we're trying to do here?
I believe that's that's definitely one of the things. John touched on it earlier about the fact the current teaching model, the way that it's designed. So there's so many great communication skills in that teaching model. So you've got the communication modes, the VAK, you've got your teaching styles, you've got your pacing of information, you've got class management, you've got checking for understanding, there's a lot of information in the current teaching model. So what we hope to do in the future is all of that stuff's still going to be relevant, and it's still what we believe is good teaching. That will come under, they'll have their own subheadings in the Art of Teaching chapter. This teaching model, proposed teaching model here, showcases the student-centric, two-way communication, and pretty much just the reality of what you do out on snow, rather than the current teaching model being quite heavy for us to understand it or keep in our minds all the time. It's hopefully we're going to make it more simple, more easy to showcase your awesome teaching skills.
So we are given simpler teaching model to our ski instructors so they can deliver a better lesson, more student-centered lesson. At the same time, by giving simpler way to teach, but you're giving them more freedom to teach rather than following the manual or the path. At the same time, you're giving them more freedom. Doesn't that mean it's going to be a bit hard to assess on it or even teach that concept to our students as an examiner perspective?
We're going to have to be better at our jobs, which is good.
I think something to keep in mind is that the progression is not going anywhere. I think even more so, having that deep knowledge of the progression, those technical steps to take somebody from point A in their skill set to point C or wherever you want to take them to, having that as the skeleton, the backbone of your understanding, is paramount. That should be there. This model just is giving you the freedom to pick and choose what parts of that progression you're going to use, and we potentially could assess that on how we see you interact with your students. So are you asking questions to for you to understand where that person is in their skill set. So do they understand what you're talking about? You can obviously see what they're doing, but when is it time to move on? Not just because the progression said so, but is it because you've got the students' environment, their learning environment in the forefront of your mind, rather than just trying to get them to the end of the progression?
All right, so this model is almost like just a template, and then the contents is our progression building, the progressions we have already. Then we are giving instructors the authority to pick and choose what they want to use from that contents we already have into this template.
Yeah. Yep, I like that.
I think the challenge going forwards is, as a division and to do with the ski committee, is there's going to have to be decisions made about potentially in the future changing the structure of exams to allow that to happen. And really, I think, if we talk about summarising, where we want it to go, is that really, we want, like Sen's already said, we want it to be easier for people to use as instructors, right? But we also, it's the end user, the guest stood on a mountain in New Zealand, or, we're global as an organisation now, right? So anywhere in the world, that they have a better ski lesson, they love skiing, they want to come back for another ski lesson and keep getting better at skiing, and that, we keep driving the sport of skiing, forward.
Absolutely, good point, John.
Mm-hmm. All right, so anything else that you guys like to add on to?
No, not for now. There's so many things we could say, but
yeah.
See if we get any questions.
Yeah, at the moment I don't have any questions coming up, but if you guys like to ask any questions, audience, I think I'll unmute everyone. Is that all right for everyone?
I mean, probably something finally just to add is, as far as people thinking, well, they've told us all this stuff, when do I need to actually think about it and prepare myself for it? We don't really know the answer for that as the ski committee, which is the committee of people that try and make decisions on the structure of courses and stuff. We've kind of set ourselves the loose goal of, and they might shoot me for saying it, but we're aiming that we're in a position where we can start implementing this into courses this time next year. So in 12 months' time, ready for the next New Zealand winter. Hopefully, when half the association can come back to New Zealand if they're outside of New Zealand. But then also backing that up with, we're going to have to change the manual, which is a big job. So,
in terms of that's time frame that we're talking about, right? In terms of contents, or the contents of this adaptation of the teaching model, we have idea of this adaptation of the teaching model. So we now coming to the part that we need to figure out how we will be assessing this teaching model in the exam process as well. Is that somewhere where we are in this journey from the start to the goal?
Yeah, we're actually we're trying to come up with, so same way we've got skiing standards, that's written down. It's coming up with that relating to the AAA so teaching standards for all levels, and then from that we can look at whether the courses allow that to be achieved.
So the exam process might be adjusted as well.
Yeah, maybe.
But we don't know yet. All right.
We don't know yet.
Unmute everyone. Thanks, John and Sam.
Thanks very much.
Everyone's allowed to talk now. Well, everyone was, but now we can hear. Oh, James Taylor.
Yeah, thank you for the session. I have to go now, but I really liked the back and forth between you guys. I thought that was very useful.
Enjoy your mango in Thailand.
Yes, I will. Thank you very much. See you guys.
All right. See you
Thanks, man.
Cheers now. Bye.
All right. Is there anybody else who want to ask us a question?
And if you don't want to ask live on the recording, we can stop recording in a minute, and then you can ask after that if you want.
Oh, those are a problem.
Because we were so thorough.
Maybe we are.
Maybe.
Well, now they're at the cognitive phase that they, they could be. that we,
Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
because it's something new that we're presenting.
Maybe we should tune back in and do QA next week. So they've got time
Yeah,
to-
we definitely can. Because, you know, in the lesson I was thinking, when you're asking questions to your students and the students don't even know how to respond to that question when they're in the cognitive phase.
Yeah.
Because they are still trying to figure out what it actually is. So if you don't know what it is, you can't even ask questions. And often that's me in the training. People asking me like, do you have any questions? I don't even know what to ask because I have no idea.
No more questions?
No, I guess we are good. Yeah. Can show us.
All right. Well, maybe we can wrap it up.
Oh,
Maybe we can wrap it up because it's 3 a.m. for me now. So
True.
my eyeballs are starting to go a bit blurry.
Yeah. And then maybe
Well
Joan
done,
needs to go feed your son and daughter.
Yeah.
Oh no, maybe you already did.
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah. Thank you very much, John and Sam, and everyone who's joined today. It was a pleasure to have you all here, and it was really good to be presenting our ongoing project to our membership. And this is going to be online. If you like to re-listen, more than welcome. If you got any questions coming up this week, next week, we are always here to answer that question. So feel free to message any of us, John, Sam, and myself, to ask questions that we can always answer that questions. And yeah, that's a lot. That's it from us. And next webinars, 6 more to go from 7th of June. So next week is Queen's birthday. Let's skip that week. And then next week, we'll have more webinars coming up. The titles aren't out yet, but we are making some good webinars. So stay tuned.
Oh yeah. Thank you
very much.
guys.